Have you ever rehearsed an apology in your head, convinced that it would make things right, only to find your mouth dry and the words stuck when the moment came? Or maybe you've swallowed a correction at work because admitting a mistake felt like shrinking, and later you felt the wound of guilt as a dull, persistent ache. If so, you're not alone. And you're also holding a powerful, underrated lever for growth, the simple act of saying, "I was wrong." In this episode, we're going to show why admitting error is not humiliation, but neural rehabilitation. How confession lowers stress and rebuilds trust, and how a tiny daily practice, what I'll call the micro-correction, can literally restart parts of your brain so you learn faster and feel lighter. Let's begin with the picture. Imagine your mind as a smartphone. For months, you run an app that defends your reputation, rewrites your memories to look cleaner, and prioritizes information that keeps your self-image intact. This app is efficient until it becomes a bug. The bug turns small mistakes into persistent background processes, anxiety, avoidance, and a resistance to learning. Saying "I was wrong" is like hitting update on that app. It stops the defensive loop and lets your system install a better way of handling errors. But how does that actually happen in the brain? There are 3 biological facts you need to know. 1. The brain flags mistakes rapidly. Neuroscientists measure an electrical signal called error-related negativity, ERN, that spikes the moment you detect an error, often before conscious awareness. That spike is your brain's alarm system. 2. How you respond to that alarm determines whether it becomes learning or shame. If you react with curiosity or practical correction, dopamine circuits reward exploration and adaptation. If you react with shame and concealment, stress systems like cortisol stay high, and learning circuits are blunted. 3. Social context regulates all of this. Admitting error in a trust-filled relationship activates oxytocin-linked pathways and reduces threat responses in both speaker and listener, which is why honest apologies often calm rather than inflame. Put simply, the brain notices mistakes instantly, and whether a mistake becomes an opportunity or a wound depends on what you do next. So why do we avoid saying "I was wrong"? Because of what psychologists call identity protective cognition. We often tie beliefs and choices to our sense of self, being competent, reliable, a good partner. When a mistake threatens that identity, the brain treats correction like an attack rather than a clue. Shame is the alarm bell that wants to freeze us. Therefore, the first skill to cultivate is relabeling. Transform shame from a verdict into a signal. Think of shame as the yellow light on a dashboard, not a description of who you are, but a sensor telling you that something needs adjustment. That simple cognitive reframe does 2 things. It reduces the moral load of being imperfect, and it allows the ERN signal to be followed by curiosity instead of concealment. Next, let's talk about confession as stress relief and trust repair. Several studies show that sincere apologies reduce physiological stress markers, not just feelings. When people receive a genuine admission of fault, their heart rate and cortisol responses drop. Why? Because an apology solves uncertainty. Uncertainty is a major driver of social stress. When someone scuffed your reputation or broke a promise, the unknown, "will they do it again?" keeps your threat systems active. A clear admission and a plan to fix the mistake collapse that uncertainty window. On a relational level, confessing signals vulnerability. And paradoxically, vulnerability is trust building when offered with responsibility. Think of an apology as a bridge. It carries the injured party across the gap between harm and repair. Without that bridge, distrust ossifies. This is why leaders who can publicly own errors actually gain credibility. They show others a pattern of accountability, which is easier to rely on than polished but opaque perfection. Now for the most practical part, how to train the muscle of admitting error. I've condensed the research and clinical practice into a toolkit you can use daily. Rule 0. Intention matters. This isn't about performative apologies or passive acquiescence. It's about intentional repair and learning. Toolkit Step 1. The name-own-plan model. When you detect an error, either because someone points it out or because your internal alarm goes off, do 3 quick moves. Name. Say to yourself, "I made a mistake about X." Own. Add 1 concrete sentence of responsibility. "I misread the brief and missed the deadline." Plan. Propose 1 small corrective action. "I will send the corrected file today and ask for feedback by Friday." This structure tightly links confession to solution and prevents vague guilt. Toolkit Step 2. Tiny rehearsals. Practice short, honest phrases when no one is compromised. Stand in front of the mirror or write small apology scripts in your journal. The goal is not to memorize words, but to make the feeling of admitting small faults ordinary. Habituation reduces shame. Toolkit Step 3, the 2-minute repair. If the harm is small and immediate, a missed call, a forgotten favor, spend 2 minutes to make amends right away. A brief message acknowledging the mistake and a simple offer to fix it. Small immediate repairs prevent resentment from compounding. Toolkit Step 4, the public correction protocol for bigger mistakes. When an error affects a group or project, public accountability is crucial. Use the 4-part formula. Briefly state the error, explain the impact, propose the corrective step, and ask for input. Keep the tone factual, not defensive. This transforms a potential blame ritual into a collaborative problem-solving meeting. Toolkit Step 5, schedule micro-corrections daily. Every evening, choose one small thing you will correct tomorrow if needed. A tone in an email, an unchecked assumption in a meeting, a forgotten calendar event, and commit to the update. These tiny acts repeated rebuild your behavioral identity from I avoid mistakes to I respond to mistakes. To make these tools usable, here are specific scripts you can adapt in real conversations. For interpersonal slips, I owe you a quick apology. I miscommunicated the timeline and that caused extra work for you. I'm sorry. I'll resend the updated plan by noon and will take responsibility for the implementation. For professional errors, I made an error in the report's data. I'm taking responsibility. I will correct the figures, notify the team, and set a checkpoint to prevent recurrence. Note the elements: acknowledgement, responsibility, corrective action. The next critical piece is dealing with internal resistance. The voice that says, if I apologize, I'll be judged. That fear is real and it deserves kindness. Use self-compassion as a preparatory step. Remind yourself that everyone errs. Your worth isn't the same as your mistake. Neuroscience shows that self-compassion lowers cortisol and frees cognitive resources for problem solving. So before you speak, take 5 deep breaths and say to yourself, I am learning, not failing. Now let's walk through a short 7-day micro-challenge to cultivate bravery in admitting error. Day 1. Keep a small mistake log. Simply note one minor misstep you made and write the name-own plan for it. Day 2. Practice a 2-minute repair for something trivial. Day 3. Offer a brief apology in a low-stakes context. Missed coffee, missed link. Day 4. Perform a mirror rehearsal of a past avoided apology. Day 5. Make a public corrective remark in a meeting using the 4-part protocol. Day 6. Review the week's emotional response. Were you lighter? Day 7. Conduct a decision audit. What felt different when you corrected versus hid? This week creates not a single heroic confession, but a habit loop that rewires your response to error. Before we finish, a note about limits. Confession isn't a magic bullet. Some harms require more than an apology. They require systemic change, reparative action, or professional mediation. Saying I was wrong without follow-through can make things worse. So always pair admission with repair. Also, apologies should be sincere. Avoid conditional phrases like, if I offended you, which shift responsibility. Instead, use clear ownership. Finally, let's consider the deeper philosophical shift this practice encourages. The philosopher Kierkegaard wrote about humility as the courage to be honest with yourself. Admitting error is humility in action. It acknowledges imperfection while refusing to be defined by it. In that space, learning accelerates. Your brain stops defending and starts updating. Relationships repair. Your inner narrative becomes flexible instead of brittle. The world becomes an iterative experiment rather than a tribunal. To close, imagine your life as a garden. Errors are not pests to be hidden. They are compost, messy, a little unpleasant, but essential for richer soil. Each honest correction feeds growth. The small practice of admitting error is not a single dramatic confession. It is daily gardening, noticing weeds, pulling them, and planting something new. If this toolkit resonated, try the name-own plan today on something small. Notice how your body responds and consider taking the 7-day micro-challenge. If you found this video useful, like it to help the algorithm show these tools to people who need them. Share it with someone who could use a little courage, and subscribe to Mind Unlocked to add this admitting error practice to your ongoing toolkit for better thinking. Because the bravest thing you can do is see where you were wrong, fix it, and keep growing.